not in terms of whether we were going to get out in a time frame, all troops. They didn't argue against that.
So no one told, your military advisors did not tell you, no, we should just keep 2,500 troops. It's been a stable situation for the last several years. We can do that. We can continue to do that.
No one said that to me that I can recall.
So would you have withdrawn troops like this even if President Trump had not made that deal with the Taliban?
I would have tried to figure out how to withdraw those troops, yes. Because look, George, there is no good time to leave Afghanistan. 15 years ago would have been a problem. 15 years from now. The basic choice is, am I going to send your sons and your daughters to war in Afghanistan in perpetuity?
President Biden is standing by his decision to withdraw troops from Afghanistan, even though the Taliban is killing Afghans as we speak. And protests against the terrorist organization has spread throughout Afghanistan. And this morning, there are reports that the Taliban killed people when they shot into a protest happening in the eastern province of Kunar. Over 5,000 people have been evacuated since this weekend, but there are still tens of thousands trying to flee the country. President Biden says he'll blow past his August 31st deadline to withdraw troops from the country if there are still Americans stuck there.
All troops are supposed to be out by August 31st. Even if Americans and our Afghan allies are still trying to get out, they're going to leave?
We're going to do everything in our power to get all Americans out and our allies out.
Does that mean troops will stay beyond August 31st if necessary?
It depends on where we are and whether we can ramp these numbers up to 5,000 to 7,000 a day coming out. If that's the case, they'll all be out.
Joining me now is Paul Rieckhoff. He's the founder of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America and host of the podcast Independent Americans, where this week he speaks to Gold Star wife Jane Horton about how Gold Star families are feeling right now in the wake of the Afghanistan withdrawal. Oh, I definitely have to check that out. Paul, how have you been processing and feeling the past couple of days?
Maybe that sigh kind of answers your question. I'm frustrated. And I think there's a lot of emotions that many post 9/11 veterans are feeling. But I think the frustration can be centered on part of that clip you just showed, because there is a disconnect with our commander in chief. And I've supported Joe Biden. I'm a fan of much that he did. I voted for him. But he's disappointing us terribly here. And he's actually starting to sound like George Bush after the invasion of Iraq. He's starting to sound like Don Rumsfeld. He's talking out both sides of his mouth. He's not being candid about the reality on the ground. And I don't think he's really recognizing the enormity of the situation. This is his Hurricane Katrina moment. This is the time where he's letting a lot of us down, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent. I think our president is failing to connect with what's happening on the ground. This is not about whether or not we withdraw. It's about a humanitarian disaster that we've created. It's about what we do right now. And he keeps looking backward. He keeps defending. He keeps deflecting. All the spokespeople in the White House sound like the reincarnation of Baghdad Bob. And our friends are dying at the gates. So this is an urgent situation that's not about the last 20 years. It's about the next 20 hours, 20 minutes, where people are dying right now.
Where do you think the disconnect is coming from? It feels like I see what you're saying in terms of the images we're seeing versus what he is saying, not just in this interview, but even what he said on Monday afternoon. What do you think makes up that disconnect?
It's the president. I mean, he says the buck stops with him, yet he blames the Afghans in a way that I think is really something we have to pull apart. Tens of thousands of Afghans have died over the course of 20 years, yet he continues to blame them in a way that I think is like geopolitical victim shaming. He's starting to create this narrative where they're an other, where Americans fight hard and Afghans are just a bunch of wimps that give up. And I think he's going down a dangerous road that's similar to the kind of rhetoric we saw from President Bush and others about Muslims after 9/11. So This is him. This is him failing to recognize the complexity of the moment. It's him, I think, showing some arrogance and even callousness. This doesn't even seem like the same Joe Biden we've seen since he's been inaugurated. So it feels like he's been so focused on infrastructure and voting rights and January 6th, which is, of course, important, that they took their eye off the ball here. And now it's catching up with them, and they don't want to face reality, a reality that you can see on your screen. And I really want to talk to Democrats here, because I know a lot of them watch you. They need to recognize this is not about defending Biden. This is about a geopolitical disaster. And all those values that our country stands for are being ripped apart right now as our friends are being killed and women are about to start getting slaughtered and put into servitude. I mean, this is a bad situation coming that's going to challenge our core values. And our president has to level with us and tell us not just what happened before, but what's he going to do next? He can't even answer if they're going to stay beyond August 31st or not. So he looks like he's floundering. And I think we all see it. And it's time for us to put the pressure up and get him to do the right thing.
So I want to play you a clip of General Milley and what he said about the intelligence before the Taliban takeover here, because there is that debate about whether or not that intelligence was correct or incorrect. So let's take a listen. I'll ask you about it on the other side.
I have previously said from this podium and in sworn testimony before Congress that the intelligence clearly indicated multiple scenarios were possible. One of those was an outright Taliban takeover following a rapid collapse of the Afghan security forces and the government. Another was a civil war, and a third was a negotiated settlement. However, the time frame of a rapid collapse, there was nothing that I or anyone else saw that indicated a collapse of this army and this government in 11 days.
Do you believe that the Pentagon had absolutely no intelligence that this would happen so fast?
No. I mean, anybody who was watching me and Malcolm Nance and plenty of other people who've been on your show and on MSNBC and others were saying this could happen in under 30 days. So, you know, I know there are people inside the Pentagon who worried about this, who feared this. And Milley, again, is kind of talking out both sides of his mouth. He says here, don't blame us. We warned the president and others. And then he says, well, we didn't really see it coming. So either way, they're at fault here. And you're watching everybody across the government do this dance where they're trying to have it both ways. They're trying to cover their butts. They're trying to cover the president. In the meantime, just a couple hours ago, they're sending C-17s out of Afghanistan that aren't full. So this is a total breakdown of candor. It's a breakdown of execution. And it's not even a military breakdown. It's a bureaucratic breakdown where we can't get people through a paperwork jam. I've described this as the DMV line from hell. And if you don't get to the front of the line, you die. So it's spiraling downward. It's getting worse. And it seems like this administration and its allies are bent on digging in. And the farther they dig in, the worse this is going to get and the more it's going to overtake them, not just strategically, but also politically.
Is there anything in the last minute here that the Biden administration can do, like starting this minute, to right some of the mistakes that you've so eloquently laid out?
I think it starts with saying we screwed up. We screwed up big time. We did the wrong thing. We want to level with you and say, hey, we really screwed up. And now we're going to retake this and try to shift the momentum in the other direction and get as many people out as possible. That's really the goal here. It's not stabilizing Afghanistan. It's not refighting the war. It's getting out tens of thousands of our allies who will be slaughtered if we don't. Every minute we wait, more will die. And right now, that's on Joe Biden, and he can fix it.
Paul Rieckhoff, thank you so much for being here and for helping us understand the latest in Afghanistan in this very fluid situation. Please stay safe.